Generating traffic and sales can be a challenge for online merchants. But selling on the Walmart Marketplace puts your products in front of millions of customers who shop on Walmart.com. And right now, sellers who join Walmart Marketplace can save up to 50% on referral and fulfillment fees for the first 90 days. So get started today. Head over to marketplace.walmart.com/savings. That's marketplace.walmart.com/savings.
Welcome to E-Commerce Conversations, a weekly podcast from Practical E-Commerce, hosted by entrepreneur Eric Bandholz.
What is going on, Internet? Eric Bandholz back again with another E-Commerce Conversations. I hope all is going well on the other side of the Internet. On the other side of the table from me, Adam.
How we doing?
What's up, man?
Good to see you, Eric.
Yeah, it's great to see you. Long time no see. It's been a couple days, I guess.
Couple days. Yeah, I've missed you.
Yeah. We met at a DTCX Austin conference a couple days ago, and
you were enlightening people with your story and knowledge. It was fantastic.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Like 10 years in, I don't know if I'm providing any more information or...
I thought it was great. I walked away inspired.
Well, cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, since our listeners only know you as Adam, why don't you go ahead and tell them what the heck you are doing or have done?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Adam. I live in Austin, Texas for the last couple of years. More importantly, I owned a men's personal care brand called Ballsy that focused on below the belt, or balls, if you will. Started that in 2017 with just a couple buddies and a very small shoestring budget, and was able to scale that up over 4 years to an 8-figure business and exited it in 2021 and took a little bit of time off, and now I'm starting to ramp up the next thing.
So you said you exited in 2021. Was that before the iOS?
It was right when that was happening.
Do you feel like you sold at the peak?
I don't know about the peak, but I feel like I sold at the right time for me and for the business.
Yeah. How do you go about that process, finding the right buyer, letting people know, communicating it to your employees? What does that look like?
Yeah. So over the course of, running the business, we had a few different people, kind of come out of the woodwork and, make offers, and just different types of investors or other, aggregators, and just none of them really felt that right, whether it was just timing wasn't right. We were really, had a lot that we wanted to do, or, financially just didn't make that much sense. And then in 2021, we started to get a few offers that were like, all right, this is worth entertaining. And it was myself and then 3 other business partners. So like a relatively small team. So like breaking 2 employees is, pretty easy. It was just us, and everyone knew what was going on. But basically we had an LOI.
Wait, you said you only had 2 employees?
3.
3 employees.
So I'll reframe that as 3 full-time employees. And then we had a customer service representative, which was actually my sister who was going through college. And then we would supplement during holidays.
Yeah. And you're doing 8 figures.
8 figures. Yeah. It was lean and mean, I guess.
Well, we'll get back to the selling, because I think this is pretty interesting. Like, how do you run an 8-figure business were your business partners active as well?
Yes, very active.
Okay. So you had 4 owners who are active.
Yep.
And 3 employees. So 7 people total.
No, 5 people total. So the 4 owners who are also, I guess, owner employees. And then, my sister doing customer support. And like I said, supplemental customer support over holidays. So yes, all of the owners were very hands-on. So one of them, very straightforward. They did all the books, finance, it was basically our CFO. Mm-hmm. That was Eric. Cisco, he was in charge of 3D rendering, videos, creative. So we'd give him ideas like, hey, we want, this product to explode, or, do fun things with the creative. He would do all of that for us. So we need, renderings for the website. And then Brock and myself, we really kind of ran soup to nuts on everything. So I always like to think of us as just, I guess, generalists. So we did everything from design to marketing to copy to running, ads, emails, soup to nuts. Operations. Like he was more the operations side. I was more the brand side, but we did a lot of crossover, right? I mean, it's hard not to when you only have, 2 guys kind of running this thing.
Did the 4 of y'all meet together, or was this like your idea that you recruited these guys in? Yeah.
So I had the idea in 2017 and I had launched it. So Eric, finance guy, I went to high school with him. I actually high school and college. We've always been super close buddies. So I've known him forever, always talked about business ideas, but this is the first one we worked on. Cisco, who did, kind of the 3D rendering and stuff. He was my neighbor in LA. I just met him. He was working at Sony and doing some cool stuff. And so I talked to him originally about the product idea. And then Brock, I worked at a e-commerce startup in San Francisco around 2013, which was basically like a Shopify meets Etsy. It was called Store Envy. Basically, a shop builder like Shopify, and then we took all the products and put them in a marketplace. So I met him there, and we worked together for like 3 years. And then at the end of that time, I moved to LA, and basically my last words to him were like, we're going to work together on something. I don't know what, but like we just had such a great relationship. And then fast forward 4 years later, you know, I launched Ballsy and starting to get a little traction, and reached out to him and said, hey, like, you want to come on board and, you know, take care of men's balls together? And, and, you know, he graciously accepted. And that was kind of how the team came together. And for the first year, you know, we didn't take any salary or anything. And as the business grew, I was able to kind of bring people on from part-time to full-time, or the whole, you know, the four of us, and pay ourselves and grow the bit.
Yeah. So you totally bootstrapped the growth, or did you have any other investments? Or
no, we started literally with $5,000, which was for our initial inventory and kind of marketing budget. And then we luckily just kind of caught lightning in a bottle with the product launch. So we launched in basically Black Friday of 2018. We had 500 units of what the main product was at the time, which is called Ball Wash. And we sold them out in basically 24 hours. I was like, oh, like shit, like good problem to have, but like now we're sold out and it's not even December 1st. So called their manufacturer, and they were able to make us 5,000 units, and we sold out of all of them in that first holiday. So we basically took that $5,000. I think we turned it into like 75 to 100 right there. And then we used that money to kind of fund the next year, in which the first full year in sales, I believe we did $3 million. So it was just kind of growing that, you know, snowball, and luckily using the holiday kind of gift purchasers to do it. So
yeah,
it was a lightning in the bottle kind of situation.
Yeah. Well, I still want to circle back to the founding team and like how you built that, because I feel like early on for a lot of entrepreneurs who want to get going, like building this team is so vital. So you clearly knew these people.
Yep.
And it wasn't like you're just, you know, casting stuff to the air. But how do you make sure that they felt everything was equitable in terms of the ownership team and decisions being made and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most stressful thing for me is always like doling out equity, right? Like it just feels like very personal, and it's just hard to like understand, or at least for me, to assess value to like an equity thing on who knows what this is going to be. And at the time, no one was bringing money to the table. It wasn't like, hey, we're starting with $100,000. You know, your 25% is, you got to bring $25,000. So it was just a lot of conversations back and forth with friends, and, you know, which they are my friends, right? And actually, Eric was the first person to join up with me in finance, piece. And he originally had 25% of equity, and it just didn't make that much sense for, you know, him in his position to have that. So we actually had a conversation like 6 months into the brand when like we were getting substantial traction, and he decided to give up, you know, a portion of that equity, which I'll never forget that. And, you know, it just meant a lot. So we were able to give that to, you know, the other people in the brand. And, you know, we thought at the time we might raise, so we might need that equity back, but we never did. So yeah, just hard conversations. And
no bad blood among that, or I mean, like,
no, it could have been, you know, especially from his standpoint when I, you know, asked him to kind of give back some equity and see how he felt about it, but he's been never anything more than appreciative. And, you know, now I'm starting this new business called Slay, and, you know, I brought him in at a higher equity than, you know, what, again, people for his position would think he would get. But like, I just remembered that he did that for me early on.
Yeah. So how do you build an 8-figure company with essentially 4 people and a customer service person?
Yeah. We were very hands-on. Everyone was working hard. Everyone's like pretty well-rounded and could take on a lot of different tasks. Like I mentioned, Brock and I really kind of split the majority of the workload on marketing, brand design, copy. And what I'll say is, as the brand grew, so like that first year we did $3.5 million in sales, like it was all in-house. And then as we moved into year 2, we started trying to outsource pieces of it, right? So we tried.
Well, let's talk about that in-house real quick. Like, you're coming up with the ideas for the content. You're working with your 3D artists to create them. Is this all through Facebook that you're growing social, or
it was
channels?
Facebook and Instagram were the primary levers. I mean, the entirety of the business, but, you know, 99% of it in year 1.
What makes for creative that converts?
So for us, Ballsy kind of lends itself, especially at the time, to kind of feed stopping content, right? Like our main product was called Ball Wash. The other one was called Nut Rub. You know, the other one was called Sax Braid. It's like people at the time, like balls, you know, this is before Manscaped was huge as well. Like we kind of launched at the same time that they did. It wasn't a thing. Like no one was talking about balls. It was just this like, is this real? Like, what's going on here? So I think admittedly, just the names of the products are what got people to originally stop and click through. So like our best performing ads were literally the ball wash bottle on a white background. Like no matter what we tried, we couldn't outperform
just a photo.
Just a photo of the bottle because the name was so strong. And like you'd get so many different comments from like both men and women, like tagging people being like, hey, have you seen this thing? And again, at the time it was very new and different, you know, and obviously that space has grown, you know, immensely. Now there's a bunch of different brands in the space. So I'm not sure that would have worked as much now, but that's what the playbook was then. We just use the product names and like lean into it.
And then is there like hook in there at all or text? Like what would be the call to action or promo?
Yeah. So I think the one interesting thing I want to point out is when I launched that business, I thought that 85-90% would be male customers. Well, it was about 70% female customers. So when we launched our ads, we obviously tried a bunch of different audiences and we had like 5 ad sets that were male and 1 that was female. And the female ad set would always blow the men ad set out of the water. And it was always
no pun intended.
Exactly. So it was, what we found was just like females liked buying it for their guys as a kind of this like fun gift, but like they liked the fact that the product was actually good. Like that was always important to us. Like we leaned into like the cheeky fun aspect of, you know, balls, but we wanted to make sure like this was not a novelty product. This wasn't something that like wasn't taken seriously. Like we used a lot of, you know, great ingredients in it. It was all sourced in the USA, things like that. So when we learned about that, then we really leaned hard into gifting and we basically would package our 3 best sellers into what we call the sack pack. And then
like you're saying like package, you're saying like,
it's funny,
like all the words, like I'm biting my tongue left and right, like with all the ways you're describing your growth.
Yeah. It's funny. I don't even notice that anymore. But yeah, so we put together the sack pack and then we would theme it for different holidays. So for Christmas, it said, keep your jewels jolly. And then for Valentine's Day, it says, I'm nuts about you. So it was just like this way that like females could buy this funny gift, but it was like a Trojan horse into like the guy's bathroom. And he's like, oh, this is funny. And then they like the product.
What did that bundle look like? Were you trying to get to like a $75 AOV or $100 AOV? Like,
so yeah, the AOV on that was $45.
Okay.
Yeah. $45. And it was, you know, like I said, our 3 best sellers. And then we started adding on, you know, more supplemental products as upsells, but that was really like the star of the show.
Yeah. And you could acquire a customer then for $20 or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, at that time we were acquiring customers like $8 to $10. Yeah. So it wasn't a matter of if we could acquire them profitably. It was a matter of how much could we make and like how much money we had on hand to like make inventory and how big of a bet we wanted to do. So the other thing that we did around holidays, while we never took money, we would use things like ClearBank, you know, to do like an inventory financing loan. So we'd basically take the loan from them, take all of the money that we made for the year and like put it on red and hope, you know, we sold. Luckily it always worked.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So you grew that to 8 figures, just Facebook, no other channels, anything like that?
I mean, we used Google, you know, AdWords and whatnot just to kind of protect brand but it was never like a primary lever. Yeah. Facebook and Instagram really were the key ones.
Yeah. What kind of things would you do to, you know, like retain the customer? Because it is women buying it, men using it. I assume it's women getting the emails. Like, do you email to, like, how do you handle that aspect of it?
It's very difficult. You know, especially attribution. Like a lot of people would buy them for Christmas and they would bring into a holiday party or, you know, like a gift exchange, right? Mm-hmm. And then we would completely lose track if that customer came. So one, I think, creative thing that we did is we ended up doing a scratch off ticket. So we like designed this thing with like Santa and he held the gift box over his package. So you had to scratch Santa's package to reveal what you won. So it basically was a code for people to come back to the website and they could enter it in. They could win a free year of, you know, ball wash or we had a bunch of different gifts at the time. So we were able to actually track customer attribution through, you know, what we would lose typically when a gift was given. But we didn't do that until like the 2nd or 3rd year. We didn't really figure that out, but it was really interesting to kind of track that cohort separately. But back to your original question of just email, that's something that we just kind of learned, you know, as the brand progressed. We started getting a lot of females writing back being like, this doesn't really pertain to me.
Yeah.
So we started trying to segment male, female, but admittedly, like, I don't think we ever had it perfectly figured out. So we tried to just speak more generally towards, you know, the benefits of the product and whatnot, but definitely a tough problem. And like I said, I think we got better at it, but never really had the full answer.
You know, it's funny, like a brand like Ballsy is so like bold and in your face and non-apologetic, I guess. And like my, kind of common sense is like women would not appeal to that.
Sure.
Like, but it seems like I was wrong. Like,
and you're not fully wrong, right?
Okay.
Like we'd get a lot of women on our ads being like, this is the most disgusting thing I've ever heard of, or like gross. And like, how could this even be made?
Yeah.
And to me, like that was the sign of we're doing something right, because I just feel like you got to get people feeling one way or another, whether like they love it or they hate it. It's like, at least they feel something. If they're in the middle, it's just kind of hard to like win that customer. And it was really interesting on the ads, because you would have some women say like, this is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. And then other women would come in and like defend our honor and be like, laugh a little bit, enjoy, like life isn't so serious, right? Like this is fun. So it was really cool. And then of course we'd go in the comments and like poke the bear. And like, I think we did a lot of interesting stuff in terms of
like you don't hide them or anything, huh?
No, I loved it. We kind of leaned into it, and like we'd post funny GIF responses to them, like eye rolls, or like, I think that's at least not all brands that's going to work, but for a brand called Ballsy, like being a little bit more edgy and like poking the bear once in a while, like really worked well for us.
Gotta have some balls.
Gotta have the balls,
How did you know if you got the price right, and how did you test that?
So out of the gate, it was really just what was our cost, and could we get like 80 to 85% margins, mark it up and see if it worked. And it just did. And we actually never touched our pricing. We never changed it.
Yeah. So there's no testing at all.
That was zero testing.
It was perfect.
I can't say
it out of the gate.
I mean, I wouldn't call it skill. I'd call it, I guess educated luck.
Yeah.
And admittedly, like that's just some of the things, like some of the things just broke right for us. And I'm not going to say like I had all the answers by any means. It was just like, we took a lot of gut choices, and, fortunately some of them worked out.
Yeah. So getting back to, you sold the business.
Yep.
These were from people who are sending you emails, and you reply to those emails.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, cause sometimes it's like, I would say like, not very direct that they want to buy you. It's kind of like, oh yeah, let's.
They're beating around the balls.
Or, yeah, beating around the balls, beating around the bush. Was it one of those instances where it's not like, hey, we want to buy you?
Yeah. So it's interesting the way that this kind of came about. So we actually had an LOI on the table. Brock had actually had a personal friend that sold their e-commerce company, and they were looking to buy other brands. So like we had a personal introduction there. So we felt good about it. So we had an LOI, and literally we were just having our lawyers look at it. We were all talking about it to see if this made sense. And basically the day before we signed it, we got an email from this other interested party. And Brock, we've gotten a lot of them. And like you said, some of them, it just feels like shenanigans, right? Just a waste of time. And he basically just threw it on the line. He's like, we have an LOI that we're about to sign. So you would need to move quick, and you would need to be around this range. And they're like, can we talk today? So we jumped on a call. They said, give us 24 hours. And then they gave us an LOI basically 24 hours later. So like it happened that quick.
So you almost had like two competing brands then.
We did. Yeah. So, I mean, we had, like I said, it was a matter of hours from signing the original LOI. We ended up going with the second people that came in, but I think it was just kind of like the bluntness of like, hey, like this is happening. So we don't have time to mess around. And they moved really quick. And that's what we loved about it too. It's like, all right, like these guys know what they want, and they're going to move on it. Because a lot of times it's like sending back for data rooms and just a lot of wasted time and effort on both sides.
So what I hear in the industry is like 3 to 5x earnings for kind of like 7-figure businesses. Is there upside once you hit that 8-figure mark? Or is it still kind of in that range?
Yeah, it was still in that range.
Okay.
Yeah, it most certainly was. I mean, we had earnouts tied to performance, which I don't feel great about. I would not recommend that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because so I stayed on for 6 months, and we had an earnout tied to performance, and it was just sales growth of 1%. So like not much sales growth. We typically grow by 50. So, but once somebody comes in and they want to run it the way they want to run it, they're going to do what they're going to do.
Right.
And
so you no longer have the control to grow it.
Even if you think you're going
but
to.
But your compensation is
tied to
it.
So that's something that I learned that I will, if I'm ever fortunate enough to get back in that position, I won't do.
Yeah. I talked to one of my buddies who has a friend who sold a business, and basically during like the whole LOI, he's like, this is the price. I'm essentially selling this business as is. There's no negotiation after the due diligence. You either take it or leave it.
Yeah.
So it's like you can do your due diligence, but it's to walk away. It's not to renegotiate.
Sure.
Did you have a lot of renegotiations during that process?
We had one a week before it closed.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's hard because I'm not, can't really at liberty to say like what happened, but I didn't like it.
Yeah, of course. So it's like almost like, I thought that was brilliant, like to have the confidence, hey, we're making tons of money, we're growing, you can walk away from this, I don't care.
Yep.
But whatever you say you're offering is what you're getting.
Yeah,
and then
absolutely. I mean, I think that's how we felt too, right? But the problem that we were kind of running up against was like, now we've spent 45 days of due diligence, and like you're supposed to close in like another week, and it's like you've mentally gotten there. Right. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, this deal's maybe not going to happen unless we change a few of these things. And then you're kind of backed into a corner. And then on top of that, we were coming into holiday season, and like, we didn't make our inventory purchase because they were going to make the inventory purchase. And it was like, okay, if we back out of this deal, we're going to be in some trouble because we're not going to be able to, finance quickly enough to get the inventory purchased. So, all that to be said, like, I'm incredibly grateful that everything happened the way that it did, but it's never easy.
Yeah, just like lessons learned.
That
I think like once your bank account gets a lot bigger,
you
have a little more negotiating power where it's like, this is just kind of what I want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just operating from a different, mindset, if you will.
So you sold the business, you bootstrapped Ballsy.
Yep.
Up to the 8 figures, but you're not going to do it again, but you're going to do it again. What's in the works?
Yeah, so I took a little bit of time off, which was nice. Spent some time with family, and I've got a 9-year-old daughter and wife, so did more traveling last year.
9-year-old wife.
Did I say 9-year-old wife?
You said a 9-year-old daughter and wife.
They're separate people. That's great. I'm glad you caught me on that. So no, 9-year-old daughter and
we won't say the age.
Yeah,
of the wife.
I'm not exactly, and a wife, separate people. So yeah, it was really nice. Spent some time with it, obviously a lot more time with them. The last, 6 months building up to sale was very, stressful.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just, kind of feeling the call back to the game, right? And wanting to get back involved. I just loved operating, the e-commerce business, and it just felt like something, was starting to like kind of be missing. It was coming up on a year of taking time off, and had thought through a few different ideas. And the main one that really stuck out was a laundry-based business, which is the most exciting and sexy thing in the world, I think. But it's not. I don't know. I just felt like there was something cool to do in laundry. And so the idea for Slay is kind of what I'm working on right now. And I can dive a little bit more into what I'm doing, but...
Well, you haven't launched yet, right?
I've not launched.
When are you planning to launch? Is that...
Yeah, I'm hoping to launch by July.
Okay.
But 2 weeks ago, I said June. Okay. So, it's always, waiting on manufacturing and samples, as like things always take more time than you'd.
Well, so I want to dig into this a little bit more, because when you talked about how you launched Ballsy, you sold 500 units in the first day.
Yep.
How do you build that hype and get people interested? Like, what does that look like to have a launch?
Yeah.
Where you're not just like, oh, I sold 2 units and then.
Yeah. So this time will be different around what we did with Ballsy. So like Ballsy, again, was a lot of timing and just Facebook ads around holidays, right? It was like, we just, I didn't plan it that way, but we just so happened to launch right around Black Friday.
But you didn't do any kind of like
nothing
hype or lead gen or anything like that?
Yeah, we did like a soft launch that we just like put the site up, and I told a few friends, but that was it. Like, okay. And then it was just Facebook ads. And it was just like, luckily our ROAS was amazing and we were able to do it. Yeah. And, I don't think that playbook works as well these days, just with like, the cost of ads, is on the rise and ROAS down. So what we're doing this time is just taking a more of like a hands-on, like grassroots community feel to this. So we've launched a Facebook group of which we call Laundry Slayers. So kind of building content on social to push them towards this group. Right. And right now I launched it 3 weeks ago. I've got 150 people in there right now.
So is that through ads, or how are you?
So right now it's just Instagram, and I'm about to launch ads next week. So I'm really interested to see how that works, but it's more just been posting on social. So we've been doing a lot of funny laundry memes, and, like finding chapstick in your dryer and like using, memes to like show that face, and just a lot of fun stuff that, people are starting to engage with. And then they go to our Facebook page from there and like join the group, and then, telling friends and family and whatnot. So like I said, we've got about 150 people in there, and it's been really cool. So we're designing the box for the product, which is called Holy Sheet. So like we we actually just took the final vote on this the other day, but we had like 5 different box designs, and we left it up kind of the community to like give us feedback and vote on it. So it's been really cool to kind of build this community around laundry and around the brand, so that when we do launch, in a few months, I'm hoping that, that group's up closer to 1,000 people, and it won't be launching to crickets,
right,
if you will. And I'm trying to document more of the process this time. So like every week in that Facebook group, I'm posting like what I did that week, like, did we get samples in? Like, here's a video of me like testing the samples versus like competitor samples. So just
is your face associated with it, or do you have like an avatar or something?
No, it's me. So I'm trying to post 1 video a week, with the update, and it is me. Like, I think it's really important, now more than ever, just to have face, to brand.
Do you think there's any issue, like you're probably not your target demographic, right?
Yeah, that is something that I have wrestled with. And even when I was thinking through, laundry, I mean, just, most people that do laundry are female, but I'm bringing in my wife, who's also awesome and on camera and has a great personality. So we're going to be doing a lot of fun things together to kind of bring it into this. Like, I have this idea of like, the brand again is called Slay. Couples that slay together, stay together. So like doing laundry together and just doing fun things, like put a blindfold on and see who can fold the most clothes in 30 seconds or like match the most socks, like doing this together as a couple and like putting that out there. And I think people are going to be able to, kind of relate to that and enjoy that as something different. Right.
Yeah. How hard was it to get your wife on board? Does she have any other work, or is she a stay-at-home mom?
No, she's a stay-at-home mom. My wife has been incredibly supportive throughout the whole thing. Honestly, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have done Ballsy. So one of the companies that I was with in LA, we actually got purchased by Google. And so I went to work for Google, and it was like, like this is the dream, right? Like I never thought I'd work for this huge tech company. And that's when I had the idea of Ballsy, and like we were gaining a lot of traction. And I was like, you know what? Like, I got to go and do Ballsy, right? Like I got to do this thing. And we had at that point, I think $1.5 million in sales. So it wasn't like nothing.
So, it was a side. It was
a side business. Yeah. And I like went in and talked to my boss, which is an interesting conversation at Google, to be like, I'm leaving Google to go wash men's balls. Luckily, he thought it was really cool. And he's like, go. And if it doesn't work, you can always come back. But like, I honestly did not sleep that following week. So I'm like, I've got, at that time, like our daughter was 3. I'm like, I've got to take care of a family. This is a very secure, stable thing at like, obviously an amazing company. And my wife was like, basically bitch slapped me and was like, shut up. Like, if this doesn't work out, it's going to be okay. And like, so she's always been that way. And she's always been an incredible sounding board for what what the products need to be. Like, I always needed her female perspective, like especially on Ballsy, like how are women going to like feel about this? So same thing with Slay. Like, she's been very involved, kind of behind the scenes and like what the brand should look like and, what she thinks will resonate with the customer. So
with Slay, you talked about you're bringing Eric, the CFO, back on. Are you going to bring Brock and
Cisco as well? So the team's all back. Actually, Cisco was just here visiting. I just dropped him off at the airport this morning from San Diego. And we're working on, like I said, the box design and just doing some creative for ads that we'll be launching next week. So it's the gang's all back.
So when you recreate the gang, you talked about like the next time around, like the equity was slightly different. Is that the case with everybody, or?
It is.
Okay.
It is. So Brock right now, and this may change, he's working, he already has his kind of hands on something else right now. So he's going to be more on like a advisory type of role, where before he was like my right-hand man. So equity is different on that. Cisco like proved to himself like he can do a lot more than just like product renders and video. So like I gave him more equity. And then Eric also, same kind of thing. So I will have less equity this time around, but they will, I guess I got more from Brock. I guess it just kind of switched around.
So the world is a little bit different from selling in 2021 before iOS, and you're able to grow and scale so quickly on Facebook, Meta. Like, do you have, obviously, I think your strategy is pretty cool, but do you have any reservations as to how quickly you might be able to scale this up, or how competitive the marketplace might be for this type of product? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it is a totally different, landscape than what it was, 4 years ago, especially when I launched, and even a year ago, since iOS has changed. So yeah, I'm trying to keep my expectations lowered. I mean, for me, this is more about doing something fun and creating a brand that I want to see. So Slay, I haven't really talked about it much. Like, the product is a detergent sheet. And if you haven't seen it, basically think of a dryer sheet that dissolves and turns into, liquid detergent, which is cool because like there's the no plastic aspect of it. There's no messes, there's no measurement, and like it's super lightweight and it doesn't take up space. So like the product is really cool. And there are a few brands that are, doing a really good job in the space right now, but they all look the same to me, right? Yeah. They're all like, greenwash, just like eco-friendly, like cool. Like I want to come in and be like real, like laundry sucks. Like, but can we make it 10% more fun, right? And can we do that through a brand that is more fun? So like I said, the brand name's called Slay. Don't do your laundry, slay your laundry, but the product's called Holy Sheet. It's just like this thing of like, holy sheet, like this can work. And building a community of memes and people like getting together and sharing laundry tips. Like, can it look like the box is black? Like, it's no one's done these types of things, and maybe it'll all backfire. Yeah. But for me, like when I created Ballsy was me as a brand. It was like the brand I wanted to see in men's personal care. And luckily that turned out. I'm going to create a brand in laundry, which is typically like not a fun, sexy space. I don't know of any great laundry brands that are like cool. Yeah. I think Drops did some cool stuff, a couple years ago with their CEO in the bathtub. I don't know if you remember seeing that one. No. He's basically sitting, he's like a middle-aged dude with his shirt off who's not very in shape. And it's just like shocking to see in a bathtub. But it was like, wow, this is different. But like, aside from that, no one's done anything different in laundry. So if this, obviously I want it to be successful, but regardless, I'm excited to make a brand that I want to see.
Yeah. You're clearly a creative person. How do you create? I mean, if someone is not naturally as creative as you, like where do these ideas come from? Like, where does this vibe come from? Can you attribute it to anything?
I don't know. I mean, when I've kind of thought about this before, I think a lot of this, for whatever reason, like stemmed. I used to be in a metal band, like way back in the day, and I had to be creative on everything because we had no money. You make $0 to $100 a show, so like we didn't have anyone to like make a website. So I learned how to do HTML and CSS. Learned how to use Photoshop so we can make shirts, and then I learned how to market and like reach out to people and cold call. So like I learned a bunch of just aspects out of necessity. And then that kind of just like led me to the way of like always having to think creatively about solving problems or like, and I think that was just kind of the seeds, 20 years ago for me. And that led to like my first startup job, which led to, kind of the path that I'm on and being able to be resourceful as an entrepreneur and not having to like hire everything in out of the gate. I've just always liked to learn. Yeah. If I don't know it, I'll get on YouTube or listen to podcasts and like figure it out.
So with this goal, is it to keep it pretty lean as well?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. The other thing I want to touch on, and just so I'm 100% clear, like as the brand grew towards 8 figures, like we did start to outsource things. We didn't have team members for it, but like we outsourced our email marketing eventually, and we outsourced like our paid, Facebook ads. But I think was really important, especially for us early on, was like getting the learnings hands-on. So that way, when I knew that when I handed over like our paid ads, if they weren't outperforming what like we did as we were like doing it as a part-time thing, like it obviously didn't make any sense. And we went through 3 different agencies. Yeah. But if you've never done that,
would they do creative as well, or
we would do most of the creative, and then they would, kind of run the audiences. And, but yeah, we went through 3 different agencies before we found one that was a good fit. We would always try and outsource creative to them, but it just never was great.
Yeah. I think that's hard, really hard,
very hard,
because no one's going to know the brand like you.
In a brand that talks about balls, everyone thinks that they can make like funny balls jokes, but like most of them are pretty cringy and like overstepped one way or the other.
Oh yeah, I'll overstep those.
Yeah. So yeah, we brought in everything, we finally found partners, and I think that's what we're going to do this time. Try and keep everything in house, and like as the brand scales, like can we move a piece of it out to an agency? How
can people connect with you, support you, buy some detergent?
Yeah. So the website, you can input your email to get on kind of the launch list, is slaylaundry.com. Also, if you sign up there's a link to the Facebook group. Again, we're trying to really build this and show behind the scenes on like how this brand is being built. Like I want to be as transparent as possible as, the ups and downs. And I plan on posting every week. So if you want to kind of see behind the scenes of that, join the Facebook group. It's called Laundry Slayers if you search it on Facebook. And then lastly, I'm on Twitter at Adam Hendle. I'm not super active on there, but you can DM me.
Sweet. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming by. I hope our listeners enjoyed it as much as I did. I certainly got a couple nuggets out of it. So.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming by. Cheers. Keep on growing.